This tiny island powers the 21st century. Without this island, the digital world wouldn't exist. Today, it makes the most advanced semiconductor chips on Earth. It is known for one of the fastest economic transformation in modern history. In just a few decades, Taiwan moved from an agriculture-based society to a high-income industrial nation. Today, its GDP per capita is around $38,000, higher than Japan and South Korea. But this wasn't always the case. There was a time when Taiwan was poor, uncertain, and fighting just to stand on its own feet. So how did the small island rise so far? To understand Taiwan's story, we need to go back more than a century. In 1894, the Sino-Japanese War broke out between China and Japan. Japan won the war and China was forced to sign the Treaty of Shimonoseki. Under this treaty, China handed over Taiwan to Japan. As a result, Japan ruled Taiwan from 1895 to 1945 for nearly 50 years. Unlike many colonial powers, Japan did not treat Taiwan only as a political possession, but it treated it as a strategic economic asset. At that time, Japan faced a serious problem at home: limited farmland and a rapidly growing population. Taiwan, with its fertile plains and warm climate, was the perfect solution. Japan modernized Taiwan's agriculture by introducing scientific farming methods, fertilizers, pest control, and high-yield rice varieties like Ponlai. By the 1930s, Taiwan had become an export-oriented breadbasket, supplying 92% of Japan's sugar and 36% of its rice. To support this system, Japan built modern infrastructure. Railway track length expanded from about 50 kilometers to 500 kilometers. Ports, postal services, telephone networks, and electrification projects were introduced, far ahead of what existed in much of China or Southeast Asia at the time. But this chapter ended in 1945, when Japan lost World War II. On October 25, 1945, Japanese officials formally handed over control of Taiwan to the Republic of China. This day is known as Retrocession Day. Almost immediately, Taiwan was pulled into another crisis. On the mainland of China, a civil war was raging between the Chinese Communist Party and the Republic of China. By 1949, the Communists had won. The Republic of China government was defeated and forced to retreat to Taiwan. Around 1 to 2 million soldiers, officials, and civilians fled to Taiwan. At that time, Taiwan's population was only about 6 million. Overnight, the population increased by nearly 30%. Combined with the war damage and mismanagement, the economy collapsed. Taiwan's GDP per capita fell from about $1,346 in 1945 to nearly $100. Taiwan was now poor, politically unstable, and under constant threat of invasion from Communist China. But everything changed in 1950. When the Korean War broke out, the United States realized that if Taiwan fell to communism, the balance of power in the Western Pacific could collapse. Taiwan suddenly became a frontline state in the Cold War. From that moment, US decided that Taiwan must be protected. The US provided military security, helped reorganize Taiwan's armed forces, and delivered large-scale economic assistance throughout the 1950s. Crucially, much of this aid went into agriculture because stabilizing food supply was the fastest way to stabilize society. The first major turning point came with land reform. Taiwan's leader had learned a lesson from mainland China that rural inequality fuels revolution. Large landlords owned most of the land, while farmers paid high rents as tenants. The government acted carefully but decisively. Land previously owned by Japanese landlords became state property and was redistributed to tenant farmers at affordable prices. Large private landowners were required to sell excess land above a fixed limit. To avoid backlash, they were compensated with government bonds and shares in state-owned industries. Farmers became landowners, productivity rose, incomes increased, poverty declined, and savings grew. Once agriculture was stable, Taiwan took its next step. It moved into labor-intensive light manufacturing, exporting goods like textiles, footwear, toys, and household items mainly to the United States, Japan, and Western Europe. This timing was perfect. After World War II, Western countries were growing rapidly. Wages were rising, making local manufacturing expensive. Companies were searching for cheap, reliable producers abroad. Taiwan fit perfectly. The US allowed Taiwanese export into its market with low tariffs, partly for economic reasons and partly for Cold War politics. Export earnings brought in desperately needed foreign exchange, allowing Taiwan to import machines, raw materials, and technology. But it created a new problem. As exports grew, wages began to rise. Taiwan was slowly losing its advantage as a low-cost producer. Leaders understood that if nothing changed, factories would either shut down or move elsewhere.
So Taiwan chose industrial upgrading.
In the 1970s, it moved into capital-intensive industries like steel, petrochemicals, machinery, and shipbuilding.
This created scale and capability. But leaders saw the limit. Heavy industries could be copied. Taiwan wanted something which was harder to replicate. So it turned towards technology and electronics.
In 1973, Taiwan established the Industrial Technology Research Institute, that is ITRI. Its mission was to absorb foreign technology, adopt it, and transfer it to private firms, building national capability without relying on state-run giants. Engineering education expanded rapidly. Taiwanese students were sent to the US to study electronics, material science, and computer engineering. Many returned with global experience and networks. Between 1974 and 1976, ITRI launched Taiwan's first semiconductor program.
This led to a revolutionary decision. Taiwan did not try to out-invent US or Japan. Instead, it decided to manufacture semiconductor chips for everyone.
Semiconductors were expensive, risky, and complex. Chip designers from US, Europe, and Japan wanted advanced manufacturing but could not afford billion-dollar fabs.
Taiwan stepped in as a neutral, trusted producer, so trust became Taiwan's greatest advantage.
Profits were reinvested relentlessly into newer fabs and smaller process nodes. Taiwan accepted short-term pain for long-term leadership.
Today, Taiwan produces the most advanced chips on Earth. Over 90% of leading-edge semiconductors are made there.
The semiconductor sector now contributes roughly 15 to 20% of Taiwan's GDP.
This is not just economic power, it's a strategic power. Taiwan's story is the reminder that history is not destiny. With right choices, even the smallest pieces can shape the future.